Now we are going to talk about the future and how AI will support us in the trust and safety and beyond. Will support us or replace us, or should we be scared? Should we be optimistic? So we have two visionary speakers who are really, spend their life at the moment, at least, working on thinking about the future of AI. So it will be a conversation between Akash Pugalia, Chief Digital Officer of TP, and I guess it would be important that you provide a overview to our audience on what is TP, what you are doing, and you will be part of your conversation. And conversation with Tariq Krim, founder of Cybernetica, a newsletter that talks about information and future information and AI a lot. So I encourage everyone to read. There is a free version, and then when you have it, you will want to have the full version, which is for a fee, but not expensive compared to the quality. So I will hand over. I will let you, Tariq, lead this conversation and talk with start with Akash. So over to you.
Thank you, JC.
So first of all, thank you, JC, for organizing. I think the only talk on agentic. It's kind of funny as I think agentic took everybody in the world by surprise. Especially I think when, I don't know who's just quickly here, who's using Claude or OpenClaw or any agentic system? Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of the, some of the interesting things that happened this year is that we've moved from something where we understood the potential of AI as a partner for like having access to information, summarize content, doing the everyday task, to something new where you have a collaborator, and this is extremely powerful. It can be very powerful, and the question is, of course, this kind of power is going to reshape literally every organization around the world. Reshaped how we do pretty much everything from creativity. I'm also invested in an online movie studio, so we use a lot of AI for the pre-production, and it's completely changed. I think it's going to change the way we produce and create movies, but also, as you've probably seen on a not as nice option, it changed the way we do war. Actually doing a panel a couple of days from now on the digital warfare and how AI is actually also being part of it. So it literally changed everything. And when we started this conversation, or this idea was to basically I think we both, of course, we both use AI. We both use a lot of AIs in a very different way because you're in a large organization, and I think you have two different type of challenge, and that if you agree, would love to set up a conversation around this. So for me, I was a tech entrepreneur for a long time. My co-founder is now at OpenAI. He's running the Claude Code competitor of called Codex, and we talked last month, and he told me we worked together for 10 years on my two startups, and he said, that everything we did in 10 years we can now do in 3 or 4 weeks. And there's a lot of claim of fame in AI, and it's someone I've known for a long time. And when he said that, he's the person who knows the best the code base, and he's been at the heart of this. And it kind of felt like we're changing of dimensions, we're changing of how fast we can go. And when I started my newsletter, my think tank, I have several operations. I said, well, I will do a hybrid team using human operators and agents. And that was a plan of last year. And it's fascinating to see how this thing is changing over time. And now we are in a possibility to be extremely, extremely productive. And if you may, what I'd like to maybe let you start with this is, there's two challenges. There's, as an individual, each of us have the potential to be super productive. We can do more. We can decide to do less. But we can also, I think it's what's challenging for us, we can do more and deeper. For large organization where you already have a system in place, people with different skills, it has to be something where you have to figure out and planify how you're going to do it, because the the big challenge, and I guess it's the biggest challenge of this year and next year, is how do you augment not only a person but an entire team? And I think that's what you've been doing at uh, uh, at the company and at several for the last year. And I'd love to maybe have you starting on first your thought on how AI is evolving, but also I guess the question, how do you use it? And also maybe on a higher front, how do you see an entire team or larger organization adopting this technology?
Yeah, thank you, Tariq. Hi, guys. My name is Akash Pugalia. I'm from California. Didn't realize that Lil will be so cold, so I'm not appropriately dressed. But yeah, so something about TP, formerly Teleperformance. It's the largest outsourcing company in the world. It was actually founded in Paris in 1978, so it's almost 48 years that it's there. We are a 500,000 member organization. We work for almost all the top Fortune 500 clients in the world. And over the last 50 years, you can imagine that TP has seen a lot of shift in technology. So, when the internet era came in, when the mobile era came in, the social media era came in, and now the AI era, right? So we've seen shift in technology, and we've adopted, and changed how work happens across all of our clients. So that's one. My role in TP, I'm a chief digital officer, so it entails two things. One is obviously I lead trust and safety, so that's why I'm here. That's how I know JC and Carolyn. And then also I lead data services, which I'll talk about with Tariq and the panel for this or the discussion for this. Data services, the way we have divided data services is, or our vision for TP for data services is how we can enable any organization to be AI ready from a data standpoint. So Tariq spoke about, what has changed in the last 1 year. I think AI or this technology is rapidly evolving, and what we are seeing is when we talk to clients, we have more than 1,400 clients at TP. Um, what we are seeing is the digitally born clients, the clients which are, a lot of them are valley based clients. uh, their data is still much more organized compared to traditional organizations. Let's say traditional organizations are anything from Johnson and Johnson to Nestle to anything that you can think of, right? TP itself is a traditional organization in a way where TP grew by a lot of mergers and acquisitions over a period of time. So I'd say in our 50-year history, TP would have acquired more than 20 odd companies, right? We continuously acquired and merged companies. And what that means is the complexity of the different companies, the different regions, the different governments, the different regulations, the different systems, the different technologies coming together. Now, obviously, when you're acquiring a company, I'm sure if you are a part of a company which is acquired or you've got merged with another company, you know that more than anything, the culture merge happens, but the technology merge doesn't. I mean, it always lags, right? There is always lag behind it. And then more than that, it's the data. I mean, all of us, even to this date, we use most of our work on Excel sheets, right? So you can imagine, we've been using Excel sheets for what, over 3 decades now. um, However, this is where the AI piece comes in, or the data piece comes in. So I'll give two perspectives: one from an external client facing standpoint, what we do, and then what within TP we are doing. So let me start with what we are doing within TP. So within TP, as I said, we have more than 20 organizations that we've acquired over a period of time. We are looking at how do we transform that data into getting it organized so that we can put agentic AI solutions on top of it. What is agentic AI solutions? That an AI agent is doing the work for us, right? And so using generative AI technology to using the data to have conversation with that outcome that we are expecting, right? That is what we are trying to do within TP. We have 500,000 people. We are over 100 countries. with different languages, different systems. So it's a lot more challenging to get that organized and sequenced in a way where you can use the technology. So that's one problem statement. That's what we're trying to solve. From a client standpoint, external client standpoint, we are trying to say the same thing, but from an external point of view, right? So let's say one of our clients wants to become AI ready from a data standpoint. We go in as consultants to say how we can look at what are the different systems that they have, how is their data arranged or placed, what do we need to do to get that to a stage where we can implement any agentic solutions, right? So that they can be ready. Again, all clients are looking at agentic solutions from two different standpoints. As Tariq mentioned that he started looking at humans and agentic solution for his own organization. All organizations are doing the same thing. How can they get better productivity out of their humans? How can they use the technology to reduce the effort and the turnaround time, both internally and then for their eventual customers, right? So I think that's the whole premise of this technology. uh, Jobs are changing, obviously we'll talk about that, but that's a little bit of TP, what I do and what we're trying to address for internally within TP and external for our clients.
It's very interesting because you mentioned one thing that is clear today with agentic. So it's it's the fact that if we look at how the stack has been built over time, you have a data stack. Some people have done it well. Some people have done it horrendously because they had no choice. And you have also a software stack. A majority of the business right now are software that address the data stack. And then you have the consumer end and the productivity on the consumer. What is interesting with the potential, I'm always going to use the potential because, as you know, AI is going in a direction where we can do things if we do it well. And we can talk later about how you do well things on AI, because you can also do bad things the same way. But if you remember decades ago, when everybody was into data, some people have incredible data sets, and now today are going to thrive in this new era. And some people have to now understand that, oh, basically my stack has to be rebuilt or stitched or figured out in a way that is sensitive to the agents, because it was designed for humans and not for agents. But one of the interesting thing is that we are basically seeing a new stack emerging. And this new stack is interesting. First of all, we don't know everything about the stack because it's being built. But one of the things I found fascinating is after like 50 years of using desktop interface, suddenly one of the most powerful and most shared interface is what we call CLI, command line interface. You've seen with Cloud Code, people are coming back into this. And the reason is that even if you're not an engineer, that's what's fascinating with these tools, because you do not need to be an engineer, but you need to be able to formalize really well the context and where you want to go. And because when we say AI can allow anyone to do, that's not true. AI can allow anyone who knows what to do and has knowledge about his industry and has a vision and has context and has data to actually do a better job than he was before. And what is fascinating at the moment is for those who know me, I've been part of the Web 2.0 era. It was 2 decades ago, and it was the renewing of the web, and then mobile and cloud took over and became the dominant stack. And now we're moving into what I kind of call Web 0, and for the reason is that the web is disappearing. The interface is disappearing, and now you just connect directly to the data. Someone with this tool can generate its own software to access the data. This is why when I was talking earlier about why the data are going to be important, it's because of that. Is that if you have access to the source of truth, I mean the quality data that are not faked or not, but are really precise. If you have access to a knowledge and you have a vision, you can construct things. And what we see right now in the market, you probably heard of what they call the SaaS apocalypse. I think it was 280 billion who literally went down after Claude announced the new version of Claude. What actually people anticipated is not the death of software, it's the perception of value, what you can do, what you cannot do. And I don't know if you would like to go to the, and I'd love to have your viewpoint on that on the job part. But what we see at the moment is that a lot of companies, we hear a lot, developers are done, it's a done deal. It's not true. What you see right now is everybody is hiring engineers, everybody is hiring data expert. Why? Because sometime in teams or smaller companies or in divisions, you were like, well, we get everything done by either by a software we buy or by like some company, external company contractors doing the software for us. And now people are like, oh, if I have a few people inside and I have a good access to my data, I can now build my own custom software, my custom stack. And in the same way that if you remember sharewares and the early days of computing, people were building their own software for their own needs. Now you're going to have this custom software, sorry, that is coming. The other thing that is fascinating about this in organization, I'd love to have your feedback on that, is what I hear from large companies who are using now um, these tools. In the past, they would say, oh, to do anything, I have to talk to marketing, I have to talk to finance, I have to talk to HR, I have to talk to technical because I cannot. Now they just don't talk to anyone. They just do the prototype. And then when you have this prototype, you can go and talk to people with a better view. So what is fascinating also with AI, agentic AI, is the ability to do and to do fast. And so it means that the way you're going to build things is going to be completely challenged. In the past, you would have to get a consensus before something is built. Now you build something and then you talk to people and you adjust it based on feedback. Maybe you would like to talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so let me touch upon the first point. You're absolutely right. I think in the past, um, we were looking at different organizations which can provide software to us that we can use licensing on it, and then do the things that we had to do. But in the last 6 months, we have heavily invested in creating our own AI team, which means hiring a lot of data engineers, data scientists, research scientists. We've just hired a principal data scientist to do what? To really look at what Tariq was mentioning, look at all the data that we have, utilize either open source or, for that matter, licensed Gen AI technology to create what we want within TP, right? So that's one part of it. So to create custom software, to create custom AI, agentic AI solutions for each activity that we want to do. For example, right, what we are looking at is having a conversational HR repository. What it means is, if I go log into my system and say, okay, how many leaves are there that I can take, it should give me an answer rather than me going to a policy, looking at something, figuring out what is going on. So anything I want to do a conversation about from my own personnel HR file standpoint, can I do it? Do I have the data stack ready to do it? And then this team which we've hired will be able to custom build something that will make me do it. Same goes with financials, right? Let's say we work with a lot of different clients. I want to say that, okay, in the last 6 months, what have we missed for the client? Where are we missing? What are we exceeding on? What can we do better, right? If our data is ready, that solves almost a week or 10 days worth of effort from a human being versus just feeding in the data and getting the output from AI, right? So you think about the productivity gain that is there. And then your real value comes in within humans to say, okay, this is the outcome that we've seen. What do we need to do about it now, right? So that's the second piece. Another thing that I'll say is the biggest issue that we find is the data itself, right? So, like I said, there are so many different systems, with all the systems having different fields. The nomenclature is different, the data is super unclean. You cannot really utilize AI when you cannot get the data back from an unclean to a clean status, right? So we have more than, I'm going to say, 3,000 people working on just this piece. Now, these are not data scientists, data engineers. These are people who've been working traditionally on data stacks, but now looking at it on how to make it ready. So So those are some of the challenges that are there. And think about it, like if we have the same challenge, if we have these challenges, all the companies who are non IT companies or non digitally born companies, they are also figuring it out. So they are also using our help to look at in pilots what are the things that they want to solve for, right? How can they solve for it? What are the things that they have it ready versus not ready? It's a it's a big challenge. It'll take some time. I think data is mostly the backbone that will either make or break the companies. One last thing I'll say before I hand it back to Tariq is what we are also realizing is that there is a race towards implementing AI, right? Everyone wants to have AI. Everywhere you see, everyone wants to have AI. I think the challenge that people are not understanding is that there are three or four things that are required, and data is of prime importance within that. So I'm sure all of you have heard of garbage in, garbage out. You don't want that with your data. You don't want your, customers having something that they shouldn't have. So I think that's the most important piece that's there. I think that's the fuel for the AI era is what's there, data.
Absolutely. You just because I was listening to you and you just mentioned, I think a critical thing is about AI and management. If you're a manager today, your sole job is to allow this plasticity between functions and making sure that your entire team has the ability to go fast and move because everything used to be done in silos because silos worked also because of software. The finance is a one software, the data analytics is another software, the technical stack is another software, and nobody wants to do the bridge between these. But in today's world, you're going to have a team that you need to empower, and I think this is thank you for that because as I said, I've worked with smaller team and I'm trying to understand how it is in larger team. But now what I can understand clearly is that if you allow this kind of horizontal access and allowing flexibility and plasticity in how people operate within the company, and because what is beautiful about AI and the reason I think agentic AI is so interesting, and now I'm talking back on my personal perspective, when I started really using these tools, I ended up, after 2 days, I had a migraine and I was wondering what's going on. And then I've been working 12 hours nonstop. And I haven't done that with that level of productivity since a very long time. And why does this happen? Is every time you work, you usually come to a point and there's a friction. Something you have to wait, something else happens, someone else, you're waiting for someone else to give you the report, and he promised you it's on the top of his list. But until you have that, you cannot go to the next level. So we are used to a system where with fraction, and there's a lot of, in productivity niches where you cannot properly work. And in between, it can be frustrating. If it's a low team and someone else relies on you, it's even more frustrating because, and suddenly we see a world where all the different, frictions are being eliminated. You can go from one point to the other, to the next, to the next. And this is incredible as a person because you can suddenly become extremely productive. The question for a team is you have to figure out how to remove the friction between teams and functions. And it's exactly what you said earlier. You have to prepare the system. So suddenly when someone uses software within the company, he can actually, with agents, have access to all the different functions, of course, based on his rights and his, obviously, you access with data access and a whole security system. It's not a given, but I would imagine it is the way it is. But to allow each person to do his best work and to do a frictionless work. And this is something very new because when you think about the morale in companies, so I've only worked in startups. So your job is you work hard, you deliver, but the vision of, and that was my pitch every time I hired engineers, I said, you can go work for Facebook and you'll be one person out of 500 who did this. Or you can come and work with me and the team here and with us, and you will see the result of your work. You can tell any friend, this is what I've done. I've been struggling to figure out how to do something, and now I can feel it, I can see it. Suddenly, agentic AI in some ways allow people to have direct feedback on what they do. They know they've done this, and you know the results when you actually done it and it's finished, and you can go to the next thing, and someone else is relying on you for, and it's fantastic. So I think if it's done the wrong way, it's going to be extremely bad for enterprise and companies. But if it's done the right way, meaning with empowering the team, the data, what you said is critical, of course, of the data, making sure that you have the data, but not only the data, also the software and the different tools ready, all the connectors allowing people to do their best job. And this is why I think you're going to have teams that are doing really, really well and teams that are not really getting potential gains with AI. Because at the end of the day, the only way we're going to measure, this agentic AI through enterprise and companies and individuals is what are the gains of productivity measurable, not only productivity, creativity, how much you deliver, the ratio. And this is something that is very new, but it is something where we can already understand uh, where to go.
Yeah, I think just to end, I know we are at time, but this is exactly what we are looking at. Is you've heard of this term humans in the loop or humans on the loop now. That is what's happening. The agentic AI solution helps you look at, sift through vast amount of data, get outputs that any particular human would take weeks or if not months to do, but then use humans to evaluate the outcomes and output so that there's an iterative process that's happening over and over again, so that the agentic AI solutions continues to perform better. Human also continues to get higher on the skill ladder in terms of what they are looking at. That is what we are looking at. I think there are enough and more examples. Tariq mentioned Claude. My favorite is Notebook LM from Google. If you guys have used it, it's a fantastic tool. Summarizes specifically for students or kids who are looking at different PDF files, etc., to see how can they can learn faster. uh, there are so many different things that these companies are coming up with. I absolutely recommend, highly recommend you guys to try some of these new technologies. It'll absolutely blow your mind to see what is the art of possible, and we're just seeing the start of it. So I don't know where we'll go from here.
Yes, I would like, just because we're also in the trust and safety, because we're very excited. I think obviously we're very excited of the potential and how to do it well. But of course, there's a lot of issues with AI, and I believe that one of the most important, I think we talked about it last year, JC, here, is the idea that the same way you have digital sovereignty and the ability to be sovereign on your technology stack, I think one of the key issues as an individual level, but also at a team level and a company level, is the cognitive autonomy, your ability to think. Because we have all these new powers coming to us and accelerating how we think, how we build, how we do things. The question, of course, and it's going to be a critical question, is how do you operate with this software? What kind of control do you have of them? Who trains them? There's this question of, I call it epistemic warfare, but sometimes we talk about LLM poisoning. There's a lot of where do the LLMs come from? Are we sure that the agents are actually operating under the same value as the company? If you were hiring an agent as a employee, would you hire him? How do you? So there's a lot of things that are still there, but that actually means there's a lot of opportunities for business and to create startups and things like that. But my point is that it's very important, this idea of cognitive autonomy and the idea of being able to be in control. For example, and I just live there. I became hyper productive with all these tools, but I also use pen and paper. Why? Because I need a place where I know exactly I can put down my thoughts, because sometimes it goes too fast and I feel like I could go in the direction of the machine instead of going in the direction that I want. And I think when you're in teams, the idea of good management and how, good leaders and where do you go and how you operate and how do you what's the goal, where we're going, is still something extremely important. What do I think of this problem? How do I solve it? Because these are tools that are accelerating. They're going to be extremely fast and efficient. but we still need as humans to set up the core principle of where we want to go.
Yeah, I think you touched a point, good point. I actually forgot to talk about it. So I've been in trust and safety for 10 years. That's really my passion. But on AI, I think there is a lot that is happening that all these generative AI companies are asking companies like us to do. So what we do is we do adversarial testing for them. What does it mean? Or red teaming for them. What does it mean? We are trying to trick the AI to give a response that it shouldn't give. Okay. We are trying to break the AI in answering something which is not factually correct. We are trying to ensure that there is, if we are asking a prompt or putting a prompt, is there bias coming from the AI? So we are trying to look at all of those type of things to ensure that we can provide guardrails to the companies, to our clients, to say this is what the AI is doing, so you fix it at a product level, at a at a level where the technology does not show. So there is a ton of things that are happening in the background from a trust and safety standpoint. I mean, there was a case recently which talked about, a person or a kid asking for how steps to do suicide, and the AI was able to give those steps on different type of steps, right? Should it be giving it? No, right? So those are the type of things that the AI shouldn't do, like normal harms that are there. You have Sora, which now generates videos and images. Can you artificially create, nude images for yourself, or nude images for someone else, or nude images? Let's say if there has been a breakup that has happened. So there is a lot of bad things that AI can do. That is what we are trying to test the AI multiple times from a trust and safety lens to ensure that it doesn't do. So yes, it's the technology is amazing. It can do phenomenal things, but it can also do a lot of harm. Thank you so much, guys.
On that conclusion, I think we're good. Yes.
Question
Of
from
course.
the room? I can come with the microphone if there are any question. No, thank you. Then and then we are connecting the productivity with the trust and safety and the harms. So definitely we're going to tackle this again next year. And also thank you, Tariq, for mentioning that I'm not too old-fashioned by taking notes, because I feel personally I need to put things on paper. And you may recognize, Akash, this
Writing is thinking.
Writing manually, you mean? A hand pen? Okay. That's you were talking about two people really advocating for AI. Thank you, gentlemen. So now it's a round of applause.